you know, as much as we possibly can. And sorry, my cats are okay.
Perfect.
All
I'm so
right.
glad we got that on film. I don't
Amazing.
know where that's going, but
Why
maybe
did you
that's
have to-
going in the video.
I know.
Hello gamers, Cuddlepunk here once again. Let me tell you guys a little story real quick about this band. I was going to my local, let's say vegan burger establishment. I don't want to use a name, no promo, no free promo for a corporation here. I go over to the bulletin board that I see that they have because I guess I'm the only person who goes there to find bands, but they happen to be there. And the thing is, they have the contact information there, and not everybody has their contact information in their bio. So I go over to the bulletin board, and I'm so glad that I did because it made sure that I was able to find today's band. Cat and the Hurricane are here, y'all. How we doing today?
Doing
Good.
good.
Fantastic. Hi. Thanks for having us.
No
Yeah.
problem. All right, so what I'm gonna have you guys do first is go through the three of y'all. I want you guys to share your names, your pronouns, and your roles in the band.
I'm Alex. I use they, them, theirs pronouns, and I am the drummer and percussionist and pads player for Cat and the Hurricane.
I'm Kat. I use they, them. I play guitar and sing.
And I'm Benjamin. I also use they, them pronouns, and I do keyboards and synth and all that kind of fun stuff, and sing.
So I want to ask first, individually, the three of you, how did you guys get involved in music?
So for me, I didn't pick up a guitar seriously until I was 17 years old. And it wasn't until I was like 22 or 23 that I found a group of open mic people that I started to become friends with. And we accidentally became a band. And then, I mean, it's been up and up since then. So 17 was when I really started to get serious about it.
I grew up in a pretty musical family. My dad was a professional drummer when I was growing up and still drums to this day, very, very, very involved in the local music scene where I grew up. And so I was just always absorbing music. I always had dreams of being a musician. And I originally started playing guitar. My dad gave me a guitar when I turned 8, and just kept playing at different periods of my life, expanded to like ukulele. And then I've always been like very inclined to drum, growing up with him as a drummer and everything like that. I just kind of absorbed all of it. But I didn't start playing drums seriously and consider myself a drummer seriously until I met these kids, and Kat offered offered me a position to be their drummer and gave me a drum set because I never had one before. So yeah, that's my quick story of how I became a musician.
For me, well, it's a long story, but the short version is I grew up going to church. And so my actual first exposure to music was I was taking piano lessons from someone at my church and playing, leading worship. And that was like my first experience playing with other people. And so that's kind of, you know, my family's somewhat musical, but I kind of was the first to branch off on my own as far as actually writing songs and wanting to play original music. When I was in college, I had a roommate who is still my best friend to this day, who was a songwriter and a lot more active in sort of his local music scene in high school and college. And so that was a good, like we kind of, you know, iron sharpened iron there to just encourage each other to keep writing. And then when I moved back to Wisconsin and I met Kat, I kind of fell into that same sort of open mic world, and yeah, the rest is history.
So, Kat, I'm assuming that the people from that open mic, I'm assuming they're the people sitting to the left and right of you.
Actually, no. I didn't meet Ben actually until after like my open mic days kind of like petered off. I was coming in to visit this open mic for the first time in months, and I walk in and Ben's playing, and I'm like, who is this person and why have I never seen them here before? It turns out that they had come a couple of times, but our paths just kept missing each other. And then Ben moved up to Madison, and then I shortly came up afterwards. And then Alex and I had a mutual friend, and then they came to see us play in Milwaukee and Summerfest, and it was like, you play drums, you know, so let's do it. So that's kind of how that came together.
Are you guys located in Madison currently?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what is the Madison scene like? Just because I've only experienced Chicago and very little of the Massachusetts scene.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I like how everyone looks at
I-
me.
Well, I was
for
gonna
it.
say up and coming and really hasn't hit its heyday yet.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Yeah. So Madison has a history of producing like a very large handful of pretty famous acts. I think of like Garbage and Butch Vig having, lots of roots here. And of course, we're like home to Disc, who are like super big in the indie rock scene. And Seesaw in the indie pop scene is pretty good. But like, I would say that Madison, the music scene, is really interesting. When I first moved here, I did not know that I had just moved to the #3 city for live music in the entire country, only behind I know, and this has been a while. It's been about 5 years. I'm sure people have done more like ranking the top music cities in America since then, but at the time it was #3, and it was I want to say it was behind Austin and then Nashville, and I don't remember which order those two were in, but it's definitely held true. I remember when I first moved here, I was blown away because I came from Champaign-Urbana, where I had gone to school and lived for 6 years, and I thought that had a really good music scene, all very underground and DIY. But I came here, and it's this really interesting mix between like you got the kind of industry venues. There are many of them, so there are always huge touring acts coming through, and then there's this really incredible like kind of more DIY kind of show scene. We up until the pandemic, there were so many little DIY little indie venues that were not specifically strictly in industry venues, and unfortunately we've lost like an unfortunate amount in the pandemic a lot. Yeah. And some folks are currently in transition, moving to different venues and things like that. But I felt like there was always something to do musically, and I am a huge concert goer. Like, I love going to shows more than I can even say, and so I found myself going to at least, like, it felt like 2 to 3 shows on average a week. Like, it was intense, very positively so. But since getting more involved in the kind of more local scene and getting really like more, I don't know, just familiar with all the different people and players. I feel like it's really interesting. There are a lot of different pockets in Madison. Lots of different, I wouldn't say cliques, that's way too strong of a word, has a lot of implications, but I would say like there are a lot of sub circles in the DIY scene. And what?
Many genres.
Many genres. Oh, yes. But I would say that Madison loves music, like where it's a really good home for us. And it's just been amazing that we've gotten the level of success that we've had. But what do y'all think about the Madison scene?
There's a difference between the Madison music scene and like the Madison queer music scene.
Yeah.
Those are definitely two different subgenres.
Can we
And
get into the Madison queer music scene a little bit more?
yeah, so like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So when Cat and the Hurricane kind of like started, building its audience here, there were a handful of other queer bands. Due to unfortunate events and literally like pandemic times, like we lost a couple of great queer bands that we used to look up to and used to, like, I don't know, rally behind, because it's like, wow, you guys are doing the thing. We also want to be doing that thing and being out and loud and queer and visible. So since then, like 2 years ago, like we're not the only ones standing. Like there are other bands, but
and new bands too.
And now that everything's opening up, I feel like more are becoming more visible. And like I don't know if it's because we're so visible, and I don't know. Like recently we've broken into like campus and like are connecting with like college students, and like they're finally like discovering us. So it's taken a while to get there, but I definitely feel like there is a certain type of spotlight on us in the fact that we are a queer trans band, just doing exactly what any other cis, man band would be doing right now. It's more exciting because, it's a very male dominated industry. So to be able to do this and have a moderate amount of success so far, it really just goes to show that there's a need and want for this type of music.
Definitely.
Kids,
Definitely.
if there's anything that you guys take away from this, support your local scene. Most importantly, support your local queer scene. Please, we need
Yes.
your help.
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely. Yeah. And we've actually been doing a lot of work to try to bring all the queer musicians that we know together. I don't know if you want to talk about Catharsis at all.
Yeah, just kind of started up a Discord channel and started adding people to it. So we've got a little bit of a collective going in terms of like all of the friends that we have that are musicians, and most of them being queer, basically banding us all together to be able to help each other with like Skillshare, just like general support in general, and just anything. Like we've learned a lot in the 2 or 3 years that we've been doing this, so we've learned a lot along the way. So the point of the Discord is to share what we've learned to make it easier for our friends to not have to struggle as much. So basically just like lifting each other up and like helping each other, I don't be successful, because it took us a long time to get where we are by just, grinding the way that we've done and having to like try things out and have it fail and like keep trying and trying and trying. So definitely looking out for our queer peers and our trans sisters and brothers out there, just trying to make it easier for them than it was for us.
In that new like re-emerging scene that's coming up, one of the things that I thought was so interesting about you guys is the variety show that you guys put on. Now, when I think variety show, the first thing I think of is like Muppet Show, talk show type of thing. What goes on at the Cat and the Hurricane variety show?
Yeah, so our vision for that was actually been in the making for a long time, even before pandemic, but pandemic gave us the opportunity to like sit down and formulate it a little bit, because we weren't playing shows and we were kind of like on pause. So we're like, let's revisit this. Actually, I will give credit. One of the things we were inspired by, there's 2 shows that had been happening in our local scene when we first started playing, and one of them was at one of those sort of DIY venues that Alex was talking about that is closed now, but it was a space that this guy owned, and just it was very warehousey, like concrete. There wasn't a whole lot to it, but they would let anyone do anything there. Basically, they like do whatever you want. And there's a friend of mine who is a drag performer who comes from the world of like burlesque and like troupe comedy, and also had a friendship with someone who is in a band called White Bush Unicorn. And so they banded together to do this show that was a half drag show and half concert series. And then a couple years after that, we had another friend who put together something similar that was more like horror themed, but it was like drag and burlesque and music. And so we started thinking like there's all these pockets and niches, especially in the queer world, of different kinds of art forms. There's a really big, really good like drag scene here. There's a really good burlesque scene. There's comedy. There's lots of really cool local art vendors and like little indie shops and stuff. So we're like, there's all these people. There's a lot of queer people in Madison. It's a very like young professional, very like young millennial place, but there's not a lot of queer, like officially queer establishments, if that makes sense. So there's a lot of bars and places where like on any given day, most of the people there are probably queer, but it's not an officially like queer venue. So we're looking at this landscape, like how can we bring all these people together? Because we're talking to people in the music scene and they don't even know that there's a drag bar here that's like happening every single night. And then vice versa, where there's like these drag performers that I'm like, oh, I'm in a band, and they're like, oh, there's queer bands in Madison. And it's like, how do you like live so close to each other and not know this? So we and we have lots of friends across those things. So we were like, how do we bring these together? So during the pandemic, we did our first show was a live stream on New Year's Eve going into 2021. And we did a live stream for 7.5 hours, completely straight, with videos and like a lot of it was pre-recorded and some of it was kind of like on Zoom type of thing, of mostly musicians, but with some drag artists and some comedy and stuff. And then we did it 2 more times virtually last spring and summer. And when one of our favorite venues, Boston Meadery, opened last September, they gave us a residency to do monthly shows in person. So this is where we brought in some of the hosts as like a guest host. And then we would have usually 2 to 3 bands, including us. and have like 2 to 3 drag or burlesque performers. And we've had a lot of stuff. We had a magician at one of them. We had a local author do like a book reading Q&A. And then we always would have like vendors selling art and wares and different things like that.
Had some good food.
Yeah, we had some food vendors a couple times. So all of it's like very local, very queer, and it's on hiatus a little bit. We've done it at a couple new venues, and we're still trying to envision what it's going to look like long term, because the venue that we were at is moving to a new location, so they're closed right now. But yeah, it's just the spirit of like highlighting all these different artists and creators and trying to build, again, very much that same spirit that Kat was talking about, like networking so that people can share skills and like insight and build each other up, because there's, you know, like the world's not always looking out for people like us. So we're just trying to create those networks where people have opportunities for their art to be appreciated.
It seems like, from what you guys have told me, and like feel free to like say that I'm just trying to flatter you, it does feel as though you guys have put yourselves purposely in the middle of your scene.
That's fair.
Yeah, that is fair. Yeah, I feel like any band wants to be like, you know, the band in the scene, right? And I think that happened kind of accidentally for us, but also a little purposefully, in the sense where we're noticing all these gaps and leveraging our position as like a band of some, you know, I guess credibility and some, I wouldn't say fame, but maybe just like people know us, right? And yeah, just trying to leverage that a little bit to like also benefit everybody else, because we're not the only queer or trans band in the scene.
I think it just more comes down to what, if you put the most into the scene, there's a better chance that you will rise to the top.
Yeah, it's like we don't want to just like live here, like we want to invest, you know, in like the place where we're at and the people that are here. And I think that people notice that because it is genuine. Like, we're not doing it for it like as a facade. Like, we genuinely do want to build up the scene here, especially like with the pandemic and stuff, and with so many venues struggling and so many bands struggling. Honestly, like, we just want to do that, and we just happen to, I think, be at the right place at the right time with like the skills that we specifically have, because it does feel like we kind of accidentally, like you said, landed in this role, because there's a lot of people that aren't doing it, or bands are on hiatus or like restructured or whatever. So we just kind of showed up at the right time to kind of capitalize on that.
To accidentally put together basically a music festival.
Yeah, every month.
For 4 months.
So yeah, we'll see what that looks like in the future. But yeah, I think for us, it's just all about like, yes, investing in our community and just that, you know, reciprocity and mutuality, right? Like, if they've been supporting us, like, we want to support them just as much.
Is part of investing in that community one of the reasons why you decided to like basically I'm asking about your songs being used in a short film. I want to know like the process of that, and if that was a purposeful thing on your guys' part to once again bring parts of the scene together.
That's such a good question.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so for the short film, like the music existed before the short film. And I guess in a way, it's like, I mean, they came to us and was like, hey, this was written by a trans teenager. We need a song. I was like, please take my song. Please take our song.
Yeah.
This is like what I've been waiting for, like to have our art be able to support other queer art, other trans art. Like it was an immediate yes. So, you know, we're really excited for that, to see, first of all, the film, and then like hopefully be able to like meet some of the people that were involved in the process of putting this movie together. So yeah, the music was already there. We're just waiting for people to like discover it and like have a need for it. Maybe not just because it's written by queer trans people, but if that's the only reason, then that's cool too.
No, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, so that film, it's called Transaster. Yeah, we're really excited, and I feel like we kind of get asks like that a lot. Or not like a lot, but more than we used to, of like, hey, like, like there's a trans community event that we just got asked if they could use our songs, and we're like, yeah, of course. Like it's online, it's totally free to listen to. Like you can please have them. And so yeah, I totally hear what you're saying or asking about. It's definitely true. Like we want to, like, you know, as much as we possibly can. And sorry, my cats are okay.
Perfect.
They're
All right.
I'm glad you got that on film. I don't know
Amazing.
where that's going, but
Why
maybe
did you
that's
have to-
going in the video.
I know.
fight in that direction.
I don't know. She's a very nervous cat.
The bullying her brother.
Yes, bullying her brother, and her brother retaliating as he should. Anyway,
Yeah.
That's why I'm nervous about getting another one, because this one, he's an asshole at night, but during the he's
hello.
he's sitting up.
Hi.
they
Oh, was a little orange and white. Oh, so
He's the best.
cute.
He's my first cat. I love him more than anything.
Oh yes, right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we could definitely talk about pros and cons of getting another cat for sure. I went through the whole thing, and I think you did too.
Me too.
But yeah. So anyway, to the extent that we're able to, I think that, like, it just brings us joy to, like, celebrate our trans community, and specifically, like, starting where we're at locally. Like, of course we could do anything on a national or international scale if we wanted to, but we're gonna have so much more impact here.
Right.
So, like, I don't know, it just brings me so much joy that people think of us for, like, opportunities around, like, building up trans community, specifically, and queer community as well. But, like, yeah, we're definitely a trans band at heart, and so I think that it's really important to kind of show trans kids what's possible, right? Like, you can be an adult trans person and be a successful musician and have so much fun
And be happy.
Oh my gosh, right? And thriving, and, like, have people celebrate and, like, sing your lyrics right back at you, like, when you're performing. Like, it's incredible. So yeah, that we think about that a lot.
I think my favorite one is that we found out that our song Resonate was used for warm-ups for a trans hockey team.
Yes.
Like, that's so cool. That is so
And it was a
cool.
youth hockey team.
Youth hockey
hockey
team.
team.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Incredible.
And they're not even from here.
Nope.
They're somewhere, I feel like, on the East Coast, maybe. I don't
Maybe.
know. Yeah, so that was a
That's
huge
cool.
highlight. Yeah,
That's
thank you for reminding
wild.
me of that.
That's so awesome that you guys are able to, like, influence just the younger generation of trans kids, especially right now with things being terrible. Like,
It's
Oh,
terrible.
yeah.
Honestly, yeah.
God, yeah, existing shouldn't have to be this much of a burden, but here we are.
where can we find you?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So you can find us at www.catandthehurricane.com. Our music is available on all streaming platforms. We also have a Bandcamp. Bandcamp.com/catandthehurricane.
Catandthehurricane.bandcamp.com.
Benjamin's correct. Completely ignore me. I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, there you can find all of our merch, other places to find us, and you can buy digital versions of our albums and physical copies as well.
We have Patreon.
And we have a Patreon too, yeah.
Everywhere is Cat and the Hurricane with a K, and we're on socials, mostly Instagram and TikTok are good places.
Yeah, Twitter is Cat T Hurricane because we ran out of characters.
Yes.
Everybody, thank you guys so much for watching. Please go support Cat and the Hurricane. Honestly, the first time I heard the song, like their first song after I found them on Spotify, every single person watching this needs to go listen to Sorry That I'm Like This. It is a perfect song as far as I'm concerned. Guys, thank you so much for being here. It's been a pleasure. I hope to have you guys back sometime.
Absolutely. Thank
Thanks for
you.
having us.
Appreciate
See
it.
ya.
Bye-bye.